Crookes of the 1880s to tell you what the shops were like in those days, what you would have bought, and what you would have had for your lunch or your supper. Okay. Very, very different from today. So first of all, I'll tell you what there wasn't in Crookes. There was no supermarkets of any description. Not only that, there were no takeaway eating places like pizza places, or chippies, or Indian restaurants, or any of the other types of restaurants that we've got. So that doesn't leave a lot, does it? All of those are new things. In fact, it may surprise you to know there wasn't even a co-op in Victorian times. That didn't arrive until after the First World War. So that really does take most of our current shopping out of the picture, doesn't it? So, where did people get their food from? Well, the first thing was, Crookes was renowned as an area for growing fruit and veg. We've got the most magnificent climate out here. You might not think so when we're in the dead of winter, but we've got that clean air blowing over the Pennines, no pollution. We've got lovely clean water that comes at regular intervals. And we've got the most fertile soil. And you've got lovely deep, rich black earth in your gardens. In Crookes, we were renowned as the fruit growing area that supplied the whole of Sheffield. So there were lots of people growing fruit and veg in their own gardens, but more importantly, there were lots of market gardeners growing produce for taking down into the valley to sell to the township of Sheffield. So you would have bought most of your fresh produce from the market gardeners, that stuff that you didn't grow in your own gardens. And there was a regular market. Does anybody know where the market was? There is. It's covered over. You know the restaurant that's now called the Indian Chef? It's got a big sign outside on its corner, and underneath that sign it says Crookes Marketplace. So that's where the market gardeners would have sold their produce, and you could have bought all kinds of things from there. Not fresh meat. That was not sold outside. But all the fresh produce would have been sold there. You would have gone up to the farm on Cross Lane. Do you know where that is? Yeah, Sanderson's farm, it was called, or the Poplars. And there you would have bought your milk and cheese and butter and other things like that. Again, not the fresh meat. They didn't actually sell meat from the farm. They took the animals up to the slaughter. Anybody know where the slaughterhouse was? Down at the bottom of Springdale Road. It's still there, the building. It's lived in now as a house. Well, that's where the slaughterhouse was. So they didn't have to go very far. They would just walk down the hill. And there would have been local butchers. I can't tell you the location of one. I found that out in the 1880s. But you would have bought all your local stuff would have been grown, raised and sold locally. The only exception to that was the corner shops. You've seen all the corners cut off on the corners of the junction of roads. Every one of those cut off corners was a corner shop. So they would have sold dry goods like flour, salt, sugar, cocoa, mustard powder, things like that. And they were all selling them at exactly the same price, so it didn't matter where you went, you just went to the local one. The other thing that the corner shops sold was they specialised. So one corner shop would buy in a big gammon hock, either roast it or boil it up and sell it sliced. So you go in for a quarter pound of gammon or some pieces of bacon. The other thing that the corner shop sold, well, it might surprise you because our tastes have changed somewhat. They would buy in the tripe, which is the unmentionable bits from the cows, the stomachs, things like that, and boil that up with onions and gravy and sell it. You'd go along with your pot, your basin or whatever, and buy a pound of tripe. And that's what you might have for your tea. if you were not very well off. It was very nutritious. We don't like it so much now. There's not many people eat tripe and onions. It was very popular for the working classes.
So when did Beacon start with the popular movement?
Not till the 1920s. Or even the 30s. Yes, it was as late as that. Yes, it certainly wasn't around with the Victorian times. So all the corner shops were run, generally, they were run by women. They might have been run by a man, or there might have been a family that ran it, but it was the woman doing all of the work serving. The husband might be off working at something else during the day. So people would go along to Betty's or Enid's or any of the ladies. They were known by the first name of the woman that was running it. And you'd very rarely go further than your local corner shop because you could get more or less everything that you needed in the way of dry goods in your local corner shop. Do you know why the corner houses were so sought after? They were built bigger than a normal house. Because they had to accommodate the big front room was the corner shop, was the shop premises. And then the back room was used as the storeroom for keeping all the goods in, for doing the counting up, doing the books, and then the family lived in there as well and did their cooking and eating. So that the corner shop had an extra large front room to accommodate the produce that they were selling. So if you ever get the chance to buy the corner house, you get a bigger room. So I'll give you a few examples of where people did get some food from in the 1880s. Just below the Ball Inn, there was a cottage run by a Mrs. West, and she sold soft drinks, snuff, herbs and cigarettes. An interesting mixture. So children were obviously going in and buying the soft drinks. There was an off-licence on the corner of Albion Terraces, run by Mr. Spear, so he sold all of the local wines and tonics and cordials and bottled beers. There were other shops selling, as I say, trampolines and things like that. And they were just doing it as a cottage industry. There was no health and safety in those days, no inspection by the council. You just buy something up, cook it up and sell it to make a bit of a profit. There were other people selling bacon and ham, either boiled or roast, served by the slice or weighed out. So you just buy enough for that day, because what have people not got in their kitchens? A fridge. So you just bought enough for your daily needs. And likewise, the milk in summer would go off very quickly. How did you keep your milk from going off? You would keep it down the cellar, but there's another method. You'd have a cloth with little weights, little beads all the way around the edge. You dip it into cold water and put it over the top of the jug that you were keeping your milk in. And the water would evaporate from the top of that piece of cloth, and by evaporation it would keep the milk cool, just enough for the long day. By the next day it would have gone off, so you have to go and buy some more. And where was the milk, the dairy, when you got your milk? Do you know where some